Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to the YouTube channel of Anjuman I Islam's A.A.K English Secondary School. I am your English teacher, Miss Tehseen Mistry, and today we are going to continue with the notes of the poem that we discussed in our last video. So the poem was from Standard 8 English textbook. The name of the poem was The Plate of Gold. So I hope that you remember what we discussed in the previous video. We saw that how through the poem the poet is trying to tell us or maybe the poet is giving us this message that God loves those who loves his creatures. So that was the main theme of the poem. Now that we have discussed and done an explanation of that poem in detail, let us very quickly jump to the notes. So first we begin with the questions that are given right in the margin of that poem in your textbook. So the very first question here is, who could claim the plate of gold? So the answer to this question is the person who loved God the most could claim the plate of gold. The man, the human who genuinely loved God was the real claimant of that plate. The second question is, to whom did the priests gift the plate of gold? So here the answer is the priests gifted the plate of gold to the person who seemed the largest lover of the race of mankind, and this person had distributed his whole wealth among the poor. So if you remember, after the proclamation, the very first man who came, after a lot of interview sessions, there was one man who came to the temple and he told the priests inside the temple that he had done something exceptional. He had donated his entire wealth among the poor and the needy people. So the priests, after a lot of discussions, they decided that this man is maybe the real owner or the real claimant of that divine plate of gold. So here the answer to this question is in reference to that man only. Now the third question is, what magical occurrence shocked the people? The answer is, as soon as this person who seemed the largest lover of mankind touched the plate of gold, it changed to lead. When this person dropped the plate, it again transformed to shining gold. So this occurrence shocked everybody. So if you remember, the next sequence to that story of the man was that the minute he touched the plate of gold, it immediately magically it turned to lead, and when he dropped that plate, the plate again changed back to gold, real shining gold. So this was a magical occurrence, and this occurrence shocked all the people, including the priest and the man himself, who were present inside that temple. The next question, why had many beggars collected outside the temple? So the answer to this question is, many beggars had collected outside the temple because they knew that those who visited the temple to claim the plate of gold would drop coins freely in their outstretched hands. So here the poet says that many beggars they had collected outside that temple, and they were sitting outside that temple mainly because they were aware that all the people who came to that temple in order to claim that divine gift, when they leave the temple, they would definitely drop coins on these outstretched hands. So that is the reason that these beggars they collected outside that temple. Let's move to the next question. Why did the pilgrims to the temple shower coins to the beggars? Now, the answer here is the pilgrims wanted the priests in the temple and the others to notice that they were very generous and kind to the beggars. So, the pilgrims who came to the temple showered coins onto the beggars. So, all the pilgrims, all the devotees who came to the temple, they saw, they so these devotees, these pilgrims who came to the temple, they actually wanted the priests of the temple and the people inside the temple to notice how generous, how kind, how thoughtful they were towards these beggars. So they were not showering coins onto the beggars genuinely out of being thoughtful, and they did not really want to help the beggars. It was just kind of a show off. They wanted to prove that they were generous, and this would maybe add to their chance of winning that plate of gold. The next question, what did they fail to do? So here the answer is the people failed to secure the plate of gold because the plate of gold turned to lead as soon as it was touched by someone. So all the people, all the claimants who came for that plate of gold, they were unable to secure that plate of gold mainly because the minute they touched that plate, it turned to lead, and this in turn proved that they were not the real claimants of that plate. Then, what did the poor peasant offer the blind beggar? Now, here the answer is the peasant offered the blind beggar his love and concern. The poor peasant knelt and took the beggar's palms in his and told the beggar that he had to bear his troubles bravely because God is always good. So, this poor peasant, the poor farmer, who enters the temple scene at the very end of the poem, this poor farmer, he offered that blind beggar who was sitting, who was actually lying down outside the gate of that temple. So this beggar, this peasant, he offered that blind beggar no money, no food, but he offered him his love and his concern. Now, this poor farmer, when he saw that blind beggar, he did not just avoid him and continue with his journey inside the temple. Instead, he waited there for some time. He knelt down and then he took the beggar's hands in his hands, and very politely, out of consideration, he told that poor beggar, that old blind beggar, that he had to be brave, and he had to tolerate all his troubles bravely because God is always watching him. The more he is patient, the more will God be pleased with him, and definitely God will reward him. So God is always good and kind with the people who are patient, who are tolerant. Then, why had God chosen the simple peasant as the most deserving of the plate of gold? Now, the answer to this final question is that God chose the simple peasant as the most deserving of the plate of gold because he loved the best. So, God chose that simple poor farmer as the real owner of that plate because he loved the best, because God knew exactly what is right, who is a genuine, who is genuinely concerned for his creatures. He called the beggar his brother and spoke to him, kneeling before him with his palms in his hands. So this farmer, he called that poor blind old beggar his brother. He did not address him by any other name, but he called him his brother, and very gently, politely, with a lot of respect, he spoke to that beggar. He knelt in front of him and he spoke to that beggar. He spoke to him about his problems. He encouraged him to be tolerant, and he did all of this without being selfish. So here the peasant was very humble and he was kind to his fellow men. So through this small little interaction between the farmer and the old beggar, it was proved that the farmer was genuinely very humble, and he was very kind, very considerate about the people around him. So unlike the other people who came to the temple only for that plate of gold, this peasant, he had no desire. In fact, he did not know anything about that plate. But when he saw the people, when he saw that beggar in extreme pain, he was touched, he was deeply moved, and then out of generosity, out of concern, he took time, he sat there, he spoke to the beggar, and he just encouraged him to be very tolerant, because definitely very soon God will be rewarding that beggar. So these two qualities of being humble and kind led to that peasant being the real claimant of the plate of gold. So with this we finish with the margin question answers. Now let us move ahead to the workshop questions. So here we have our workshop. Now the very first question in the workshop is that we have to pick out words from the poem to complete the sentences meaningfully. So here they have given us 5 sentences. In every sentence there is a blank space given, and right beside the blank space we have words which are actually the meanings of the words that appear in the poem. So we have to read that bracket meaning and identify that which word from the meaning actually, which word from the poem is actually, you know, in tandem with the given meaning. So the very first question, Stephen Hawking was a dash bracket famous astrophysicist. So famous is the meaning. Now with this word famous we have the word renowned which appears in the poem, and renowned has a synonym which is famous. So likewise we have to complete the other 4 sentences. The government made a, in the bracket, announcement about their new taxation policy. So announcement is the meaning, but the word which matches the word meaning announcement is proclamation. So in the blank space we have to fill up proclamation. Then next, everyone stood in brackets horrified when the terrible accident took place. So the meaning is horrified, and the word which matches this meaning from the poem is aghast. Then fourth sentence, she in the bracket bargained with the hawker to reduce the price. So here the word from the poem which matches our meaning bargained is wrangled. So in that blank space we will be writing wrangled. And finally, handicapped people should never be in the bracket ignored and avoided. So ignored and avoided is the meaning of the word shunned which appears in the poem. So in that blank space we will be filling up the word shunned. So likewise we have completed the very first question of our English workshop. Now let us quickly move to question number 2. Now, in question number 2, they have asked us make a list of archaic words from the poem and give their modern equivalents. Now, archaic words are basically a very old-fashioned English word, very old-fashioned words, and they have, over a period of time, we have come up with new modern equivalents for these same words. Now here in the textbook they have asked us to make a list of some archaic words that appear in the poem, and we also have to write their modern equivalents, which is the modern word which replaces that archaic word. So here we have made a list of 4 words. The very first archaic word is Benaras. The modern equivalent of Benaras is Varanasi. Then the second word, Munshi, it is an archaic word. It is an old-fashioned word. The modern equivalent to the word Munshi is secretary. Then the next archaic word that we have is peasant. The modern equivalent of the word peasant is a countryman or a farmer. And finally, the fourth word is loveth, which is an archaic word, and the modern equivalent of the word loveth is loves. So this is how we are supposed to complete this question. You can either make the table the way it is given here, or what you can do is you can write one archaic word, put a hyphen and write its modern equivalent. Then second line you can write the second archaic word, put a hyphen, and then you can write its modern equivalent. Whichever way suits you, you can complete the answer in that particular format. Now let's move to question number 3. Now in question number 3, we have been asked to rearrange the given sentences in the proper chronological order, and we have to insert them into a flow chart as per the poem. So like we do it in history, that we arrange the events in proper chronological order. Chronological order means which came first and which came next. So here as well, they have asked us that they have given us certain you can say events or incidences from the poem, and they are from A to H. They have jumbled them up. We have been asked to arrange them in the appropriate order. Which incident comes first, then what is next, then what is next. But we have to show it in the form of a flow chart. So the first incident will come at the top. Then we'll be drawing a vertically downward arrow. Then the second incident, then the next downward arrow, then the third. And likewise we have to complete the question. So here I would not read out the jumbled sentences because they are already given in the textbook. So here we will be writing the final answer. As you can see, the way it has been written here, this is exactly what your question demands. You have to write the answer in this way only, because they have insisted on writing the answer in the form of a flowchart. So here the very first statement, which according to the poem which comes first, is the statement number D. It says a plate of gold fell in a temple from heaven. So this is the very first incident of the poem. Then we come to the second one. The second one is the statement number F. The priests announced that the one who loved God the most of all would receive the gift from heaven. So this is the second event of that poem. So we'll draw a vertically downward arrow and we'll write that entire statement with its original, you can say, alphabet. Then the third event is event number B. Many claimants donated their wealth to receive the plate of gold. So this is the third event of the poem, which is I think alphabet B. So we'll draw vertically downward arrow, we'll write B and we'll write that statement. Then the fourth event is event A. The plate turned to lead when it was gifted to false-hearted claimants. Then the fifth is event C. For almost 2 years, no claimants received the plate of gold. The next is event H. A simple peasant who had nothing to offer came to that temple. Then we have event E. The peasant offered comfort and courage to a blind, miserable beggar whom all had ignored. And the last is G. When the priest gave the plate of gold to that peasant, it shone with thrice its lustre. So this is a very simple way of writing the answer. You don't have to make it really fancy. You simply have to first rearrange the given statements in the correct sequence from what took place first and finally. So ascending to descending order, and you have to represent your answer in the form of a flow chart. So the event which took place first, you'll be writing it at the very top, then draw a vertically downward arrow, then write the second event, then again a vertically downward arrow, then the third event. But remember, you have to write complete sentences. You just cannot write the numbers and draw arrows and leave it there. So this is our answer to question number 3 from the English workshop. Now let us move ahead. So here we come to the final question of the poem of the workshop. Which two sayings about God are conveyed through the poem The Plate of Gold? So if you go back to your textbook on page number 60, they have given you 4 options. From the 4 options, you have to select 1 or 2 or 3, or if you feel all of them are conveyed, so you have to select the correct option and you have to write that which two sayings about God are actually conveyed through this poem. So they have given you 4 options. The first is God helps those who help themselves. The second is God loves those who love their fellow beings. The third is God loves those who give away their wealth to please Him. And the last one is service to mankind is service to God. So we have already discussed the main theme of the poem. We have discussed each and every event of the poem in detail. And finally, we also spoke in the last session about what message the poem is trying to convey. So definitely out of all these 4 options, option number B and option number D are the correct messages which are being conveyed through the poem. So the first is that God loves those who love their fellow beings. This is the first message that is conveyed through the poem. And the second is service to mankind is service to God. So these are the 2 messages which are conveyed through the poem The Plate of Gold. So dear students, we have completed the entire poem, explanation of the entire poem which was done in the last session, and today we have discussed all the margin questions with their answers and also all the workshop questions with their answers. So with this we finish this entire topic. I hope you have understood how to write the answers for each of the given questions. I'll see you in the next session in the coming weeks. Thank you for joining today and have a great day ahead. Thank you.